I'd like to share with you guys a little bit about where I come from in my life, and a little bit also about the dream and the vision that has moved me for quite a number of years now. And at some point, share with you the purpose that I have discovered for what I am here to do. And Mark Twain once said there's two most important days in your life. The first most important day in your life is the day you are born, and the second most important day of your life is when you understand why. And I will share my why with you today. And my life at the beginning had a lot to do with breaking the rules. It was all about breaking the rules most of my life. And I'll tell you a little story of where that started. When I was very young, as a small child, I can barely remember, my father taught me my first English words. And my dad, he was a drill sergeant and a command sergeant major in the United States Army. So the first words he taught me were yes, sir, no, sir, and anything you say, sir. So I don't know how many of you have ever met a drill sergeant in your lives. If you have, you can feel free to put your hands up. You have, okay. And you may have had an intimate relationship like I did. 17 years with a drill sergeant. Not something I would wish upon my worst enemy. But he did put some rules on me for my whole life. When I was 17, I said, no, sir, screw you, sir, goodbye, sir. Okay? So that impacted my life. It had a big influence on me not really liking to do what other people were telling me to do, especially if it didn't make sense. Have any of you ever had that situation where someone's telling you to do something that you know doesn't make sense at all? Have you ever had that situation? Yeah? And then you do it. Isn't that terrible? Because it's Dustin, yeah? You know? You do it, and then after that, you feel really bad about yourself. You know, then you got to go somewhere and drink a 3-liter bottle of vodka or something to feel better about yourself, right? So for me, it was all about this situation that I grew up in the American culture and the German culture as a kid, and this rule thing was important. But at some point, I started breaking the rules because I didn't agree. I didn't think it was a good idea. And I actually started doing something about it. And that's part of the story that I want to bring with me today. And my whole life revolved, and my whole story revolves around the reality in business life. So when I finished high school and left the United States Navy after my Navy time, I wanted to be a successful business person. I wanted to be the most successful capitalist on the planet because I immigrated from the United States of America to Germany at the time because I wanted to go from dishwasher to millionaire. And everybody else was going the other direction. No one in Germany believed you could do that here without a college education. And I decided that I wanted to go into business life and understand how it works because in one way or another I also wanted to make my father proud of me. That drill sergeant, sergeant major, where no matter what I did, it was never good enough. It was never great enough. It was never significant enough. So I went into all these different companies to go change the world in my business sense at the time and be successful. And as I looked at the reality of what happens in business and in the economy around the world, there are certain realities that I started to see. And the realities were that business focuses on delivering results and focuses on growth, on profit, and on shareholder value. And over the years, this system would continue to put pressure on every single one of us to deliver more with less. And this pressure at some point started putting us in situations where the rules were telling us one thing and all the rest of our body was telling us something else. We wanted to do the right thing and not just deliver profit for the system. And around the world today, we don't talk so much in detail about why only the number counts. We talk about people and values being relevant, but in reality, the only thing that needs to be delivered is profitability. And Mr. Friedman in Chicago once said, the only reason for a company's existence is to deliver profit. And when you get into that scenario, one of the elements in order to maximize profitability, das ökonomische Prinzip, the economic principle, is also to reduce cost. So in the companies I was at some point, I could see that more and more energy was being invested to reduce cost in the structures and organizations in order to maximize profit. And in order to reduce cost, you had to take cost out of the system. At some point, you had to let people go. You had to fire people in order to generate more profit for those people in the company that would take the profit and do something with it. And for a young leader, for a young manager, when the company comes up to you and says, listen, we've decided to reorganize and restructure our business. We want you in your team of 10 to let 3 people go. What are you going to do? Most of you want to be managers at some point or in business. What do you think people have done in the last 20 years when the company tells them to let people go? What do? We let them go, right? It's not our company. It's not our business. We get told what to do. We do what we get told. We let people go. We tell them they need to leave. And this is something we can't blame the people for because the system is set up this way. It's set up so that the numbers on an Excel sheet are the only things that count at the end of the day. So we set up our structures and our processes and our systems in every single organization around the world to control that we are doing exactly what needs to get done to deliver that maximum amount of profit. Every single piece of technology that gets developed and put into companies on the software side, most of that is put in place in order to support the command and control system to be sure we're doing what we need to do, which is deliver profit back to the system. And over the course of the last 10 years and the last 5 years, as the pressure has increased, as the amount of Druck, Germans would say, on us has increased to deliver more at lower cost. We have to work more hours. We have to be busier than we ever were before. We have to go places we didn't want to go. We have to adhere to these rules of delivering every single minute of every single day. And on the course of doing that, we've started to lose the connections to each other. The connections to our families, to our friends, to all the pieces that are important to us, because the only thing these companies and organizations ask us to do is not care for each other, but care for the results. And when you get into the situation that you're working 80-hour weeks, and there's different people and different realities that have to work 80 hours to get enough together to feed the family and the children. Young mothers with 3 kids that need to work 3 jobs in order to have enough to take care of the family. The factory workers in the United States that in the downsizing curve since the crisis in the last 5 years, 40% of their colleagues were fired and let out of the company. And now they mandatory overtime the employees in factories to do 80 hours a week or lose their job, because it's cheaper to pay overtime than it is to hire people back into the organization to produce products and services. And for me, at a point in my life where I did 80 hours a week for 5 years in a row, I lost everything that was important to me. I lost my second wife. I lost my daughter. I lost my job for the 4th time after I'd quit already 7 times. I got into a situation where I asked myself, can this be the future, that all we do is deliver something that doesn't give us value beyond a number in a bank account? And that everything else that I lost on values, I could never get back again in my life. And I decided that there's got to be a better future. A future where people become the center point of every decision we make, where the values that connect us are the most powerful element of our business reality. Values like respect and trust and appreciation, where our dignity is in the center point of anything a company would do, where our willingness to give all for each other comes to a level where we know that we can build a better place, not just for ourselves, but for our children and children's children. I promised myself 6 years ago when I got into that situation, lost everything that I had, that this way and this approach in our business reality has to change. And when I tried to change it from inside of the system, I was breaking rules. Because back in 2008 told me, Patrick, we've got a crisis in the world. You need to fire 15% of your employees in Germany. You're the country manager. You're responsible. This is a board decision. Please let people go. And I decided to say no. I sat down with 300 employees. We went through our costs. We found 17% cost reduction that we could do. Reduce the cost by 17%. I took that plan with me to our headquarters in San Francisco, California, and showed it to the president. And what did he say? He said, Patrick, that's not what we asked you to do. We asked you to let 15% of your people go. But I like your plan so much, why don't we take your 17% cost reduction and fire 15% of your people? What did I say? I said, no, sir. I said, and I convinced him at this point in time because they just got me back, got me into the company to turn it around after 5 very successful years at Dell Computer, where I turned around Dell Computer in Germany, where at some point Michael Dell sends me an email that says, Patrick, I'm inspired by your work. Smiley face, exclamation point, Michael. Isn't that a cool email? That is a cool email. 6 weeks later, they fired me. Because the rule is not to deliver the numbers. The rule is not to maximize your profit. The rule is to do it the way the system wants it done. And the system wants you to distance yourself from your people. The system wants you to be able to make those decisions and let them go without caring for them for an Augenblick, for 1 single minute. And I know that's not our future. Because I know, especially the younger generation, we care about each other. We want to work with friends. We want to achieve something that will make this world a better place. But in 99% of the organizations around the world, and I have worked in 10 of those companies, in 15 different jobs, American companies, German companies, Asian companies, Japanese companies. And I've seen them do this every single time. And they don't give you the choice. So you have to break the rules. And when you break the rules, you get shot. When you take care of people, that's not what they want to see. And I firmly believe that if we can understand the power of connecting with one another, of making the relationships that we have the strongest driver of business success for the future, that we will find a better way. And my purpose in my life is nothing else than to put those two pieces together, to make sure that when my kids join the workforce in about 10 years from today, that they have those values of their dignity and respect and trust and appreciation for every single minute of every single day of their jobs. And there's never an exception. It doesn't mean we're holding hands and singing Kumbaya, my Lord, every day. But if we've got a strong relationship, can we have a fight? Yes, we can. If we've got a strong relationship and somebody makes a mistake, do we tell them they made a mistake? Yes, we do. So the closer we can come together as a team, the more powerful the energy is that we can release. If we're together with one another, we can align that to any company purpose that the company has. The stronger we are together, the stronger we are in our purpose. And when we do that and align ourselves to a personal commitment that we would do everything for each other, at any moment of every time, we will unleash the most powerful potential that the world has ever seen, beyond anything that a company has done before in their lives, beyond anything you will learn at any university, at any college in the world today, is that the power of bringing the people together can change the world forever. And we've had people show us how it works. We've had Gandhi show us how it works. We've had Nelson Mandela take the 5 fingers and put them together and show us the power of coming together as people with a belief and purpose. So if that's the truth of the history of the world, why don't we apply any of those learnings in any of our organizations and companies around the world today? Because all they care about is profit. All they care about is putting more millions and more billions on their bank accounts while we work ourselves to death and lose everything that's important to us. So for me, the only thing I want to ask you to do is go deep in yourselves. When you see the option of running for profit or connecting to people, to understand in yourselves that there is only one answer that we can deliver, is by connecting to each other in the relationships that we have, based on the values that we have held dear our whole lives. We can generate an environment, a climate in every single company and organization that will achieve the highest levels of performance that they've ever seen. We can go beyond expectations. We can go beyond anything we've seen before. But the first thing we need is we have to care about it with everything in our body and our senses. We've got to want to do it. And when someone comes down the line and tells us to do something that makes no sense, our answer has to be, no, sir, screw you, sir. I'm going to do the right thing, sir. And every time in our history where we've stood up with enough courage to make that statement, we've changed the world forever. We don't accept injustice. We don't accept people not getting dignity and respect and appreciation. We don't accept it for ourselves. We don't accept it for friends around us. We want this baseline of a better future for all of us. And I care about it so much that I'm going to give every breath I take and every step I make for the rest of my life to do nothing else than make sure that this message is heard and that we generate enough care within ourselves to make a change to the world and not break the rules, but go beyond. Rewrite the rules of business and make sure that we have a life that we want to have for every single person on this planet. And I thank you very much for your attention today.